Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian M. Hauser. You can find me pretty much anywhere you get your content, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, at Hawk Blogger. And welcome home to the thousands and thousands of Seahawks fans that are making their trips back to wherever they came from to go see this game in Tennessee. I just landed here like a little less than an hour ago in Seattle and made my way right back here. And got ready for the show. What a great trip to Nashville it was. And Finn, has been locked in his kennel till I got here, so he's joining for the show. He'd like to say hello to everybody for a little bit, at least. It was a great experience. I'll talk more about the game here in a second. A couple things that stood out to me. I'm going to show a couple plays from that game. Unfortunately, I'll only be able to do still images because otherwise we'll get dinged by the NFL. But a couple things relative to Sam Darnold's performance I wanted to kind of show and talk about with you guys. We got some news about the upcoming game against the Vikings. We'll talk about that as well. But before we get into all that, I mean, I just... part of this show is not just the nuts and bolts of Seahawks and football, but also the experience of, traveling around and, witnessing what's going on with the team and with the fan base. And there was no hesitation from us that Nashville was going to be the place that all the folks from Real Hawk Talk were going to circle on their calendars to get to and see the game this season. It was a lot of fun. Certainly not a unique decision to make. Same way New Orleans is kind of a circle the date kind of trip, and Green Bay is one of those. There's a few places that kind of hit that bar. And, like if you've never been to Nashville before, it's, I think the thing that sets it apart is how much music there is everywhere, 24 hours a day, whether it's a hotel lobby, a coffee shop, a bar, a restaurant, there is somebody playing music, singing music, piano, guitar, full band, whatever. And as someone who loves live music, I thought that was just awesome. I would have loved to have been able to take in a little bit more, but I wish there was more of that in Seattle. I know there is some of that, but there's a lot of other cities I feel like that have a little bit more live entertainment available, just walking around casually. And that was really, really cool. The amount of Seahawks fans was crazy. Mike McDonald talked about it on his Mike McDonald show this morning. I think he's going to start his press conference later today. That'll be around 3:30, talking about that as well. It was just a really wild amount of Seahawks fans there in attendance. I posted some video of it on Twitter yesterday during the game, before the game, during introductions, and you can just see it's one thing to have a lot of your fans there, to actually outnumber the home crowd, which is what I think happened yesterday. That's pretty rare. And it just made for, a special experience. It reminded me a little bit of the Seahawks Super Bowl in New York in technically 2014, but the 2013 season, where my buddy and I were there for a full week ahead of the game, wandering around New York City, going to see, shows and hit bars and eat food and all that good stuff. And everywhere we walked, there were Seahawks fans and go Hawks, like throughout the city. And New York's a pretty big city. So for Seahawks fans to be that prominent was really part of the experience. And that was part of the experience here as well. I mean, it was a show. It was really cool. And I don't think it's just because of Nashville. I think if this team had been less worth watching, I think that there'd be fewer fans making the trip. But you kind of got this nice combination of a team on the rise, a team that I think people really enjoy, and a game that they're probably going to win, and a really great travel destination that you don't get to go. It's an AFC team. You don't play them that often. You definitely don't play them on the road that often. So it was a unique opportunity and really cool. The other thing that I would throw out there, and we'll talk more about this on Real Hawk Talk Wednesday this week. Jeff Simmons and Evan Hill will join me for that. And the Real Hawk Talk live on Saturday night was such a wild experience. I can't even really put it into words. To be there, to have that many people, interested, to have people outside the lounge, the VIP lounge where we held it in, trying to get in, trying to like force their way in respectfully, but trying to get in. There was a line that was wildly long. I don't know. I have to come up with a better adjective, but when we started doing this stuff together as a group, it was honestly just because we have a potentially unhealthy obsession with the team, and to see that we've kind of reached this many people that feel this passionately about the team and about, the crew we've got on Real Hawk Talk and the show. And so many people came up and were, so nice. People traveled from, Germany, 17 hours, I heard. People traveled from, Calgary, like all over the place to come to this game and chose to spend their Saturday night with us. And a lot of them talked about the fact that we are fans, true fans of the team, and that they found a place or a podcast in our show that gave them a place to be, and a place that like a reflection of them, that they felt like we are true fans of the team, and they felt like we were as obsessed and silly and sicko-ish about this team as they are. And so that was just great. And it was also one of the things that has been one of my goals in doing this, is just to connect people, and I think loneliness is a real thing. I think it's really hard to connect with people, just for all sorts of reasons. And to know that we've given people an opportunity to gather for these shows that we do all the time, but as well as in person, to make those meetings and to feel a little bit less alone in the world, I think also was really cool and gratifying. So I know there's a lot of requests for when we do in the next one. People are like, got to do one in Seattle. We definitely talked about it. We'll figure out what the right time and place is to do something like that. I think it's something we want to do more of. It also, a lot of things kind of came together for this to work the way it did. As many Seahawks fans as there were in Nashville, there aren't that many in a lot of the road environments we go to. This was a unique situation. Me being able to carry all the stuff. I don't want to do that every road trip, the equipment to do the show. And also my crew, my Real Hawk Talk co-hosts, don't often travel with me. So we can't do it all the time, but it is something we'll think about and figure out the right times to do it, when we can do it. And so keep an eye out on that. And the best way to kind of know when those things are coming, obviously, is watching the show, but also join in at patreon.com/hawkblogger. Join as a YouTube member, be on the Discord server. And the cool thing for that is that right now at Patreon, patreon.com/hawkblogger, I'm running a special 1 week only ahead of Black Friday deal where you can get 10% off an annual subscription at patreon.com/hawkblogger. So special deal right now. Great chance to be a part of this community that is really, really great. And you can do it for a little bit less money than you normally would. So take advantage while you can. Promo code for that is, I had it up here somewhere. I know I did. Maybe it got lost. Well, promo code is HB Friday. I'm pretty sure. I'll double check. I will double check while I'm doing it, but I believe it is HB Friday. So yeah, but you can go to patreon.com/hawkblogger. It'll lead you right to it, so you don't have to remember all that stuff as well. Okay, so that is just a little glimpse. I won't spend more time, but I wanted to spend a little time opening the windows there. And really, really cool stadium in the sense that it's one of the last stadiums where the press box is situated at a really advantageous view, kind of suite level seats for the game. Beautiful day in Tennessee to watch the game. And, they're building the new stadium that is next door. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a little bit like Lucas Oil Stadium, I think, and indoors, but a little bit open air. And it was fun. People were great. People were friendly. Highly recommend doing that if you can. All right. So let's talk about news first. As far as the game goes, no really new news out of the Mike Macdonald show this morning. Didn't get any updates on Ty Okada or Julian Love or, any of the other injury situations. So we don't know what's going on there. We'll ask a little bit this afternoon, find out. The hope is that Julian Love can come back this week. He and Eric Saubert, the tight end, are eligible to come off IR this week. Don't know for sure what that situation will look like, but it would be ideal, given that Ty Okada went out with an oblique injury, that Julian Love could come back for this game. But Mike Macdonald made it clear yesterday in his post-game press conference that he's going to be really careful with Julian Love and wants to make sure that he's back to stay, and that it's not one of those on again, off again, re-injures the same, injury, soft tissue situation. I think it was a hamstring for him again. So we'll kind of monitor that. That's one of the storylines for the week. Sorry, I actually feel fine, but my cold has moved into my chest, so my voice is going to give out here at some point. The other thing that, like, last night, myself and a bunch of the fellows went to a cool sports bar in Nashville to watch the Rams Bucs game. And, gross. That sucked. That was really boring. There's nothing to see there. It was exciting for a second that the Eagles lost. We'll talk about that in a moment. But, I'll out Evan. Evan was really hopeful that the Bucs might win that game. I was like hoping that they'd make it a entertaining game for at least a half. I literally said that before the game started. I was like, just make this watchable for a half. Nope. They couldn't even make it watchable for a quarter. It wasn't close. It was a lesson in, I think, two things. One, the Rams are really good. They are legitimately the best team in football until somebody proves otherwise. And two, man, it matters when you play a team. I mean, when the Seahawks played the Bucs the first time, when the Seahawks played the Bucs earlier this year, I should say, not the first time, they were 3-1. They were leading the NFC. Baker Mayfield was the unanimous MVP in the NFL through that period of time. He came in, had his best performance of the year, was absolutely electric, happened to coincide with a game when the Seahawks were without all sorts of people from their secondary, and then also lost Tariq Woolen during that game. So Nehemiah Pritchett had to get pressed into duty. He wasn't really ready. Ty Okada didn't have a great game. Kobe Bryant didn't have his best game. And Baker Mayfield was on fire. And man, that Bucs offense does not look anything like it looked the first 5 weeks of the season. They barely showed up for this game. And, ultimately Baker Mayfield gets hurt, doesn't finish the game, doesn't play the second half. And, the Rams just absolutely wallop the Bucs. So didn't expect the Bucs to win. I thought that was one of two games where if there was any hope of a team outside of Seattle maybe giving them trouble, the Bucs were one of the better teams that they're going to play. But you look at the Rams' rest of their schedule, there's just not a lot of tough games left. They'll go to Carolina next week. They will go to Arizona. Maybe Arizona. Arizona has played reasonably well, and I think they're a little bit of a plucky team. There are two Arizona games, one in Arizona, one to end the year at Los Angeles. So maybe something comes of that. They do have a game against the Lions at home, but I don't know about the Lions, man. Like, how good are the Lions? And I certainly would expect the Rams to be a meaningful favorite against the Lions, even at home, in LA, but I think they'd be a favorite even if they were on the road in Detroit. Then they play Atlanta after Seattle. I mean, I would expect the Rams to pretty much be favored in every game the rest of the season. They may even be favored in the game in Seattle. That would not shock me. So, the Rams are going to do whatever the Rams are going to do. I think the Seahawks, as we talked about before, you want to win this next game you have against them. Honestly, the game that's going to matter the most is when you face them in the playoffs. And, I think any team that gets to play the way the Rams are playing, gets to crow about it a little bit. I see some of the fans talking about how they're the best team in the NFL and it's not close. I'm like, I'll give you the best team in the NFL because no one's been able to prove otherwise. Not close. Don't know about that. I mean, you did just win a game by 2 points against a team that turned the ball over 4 times on your home field, and they had a field goal chance to win the game. So are we sure it's not close? I don't know about that. But I'm not going to quibble because honestly, they won. So they get that. And I don't know. I honestly don't know if there's any other team in the NFL that can hang with the Rams other than the Seahawks. That's what I've seen coming into that game last week. It's what I see coming out of that game. It's what I continue to see. So the Seahawks just got to get themselves right. They have to play their best ball. And one of the things I liked, I'll talk about the Eagles thing in a second here. One of the things I liked about what came out of the game yesterday for the Seahawks was the play of Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker got more carries in this one. In fact, I have not actually gone through and looked at the final tallies of snaps there. But let me at least pull up the amount of carries. Kenneth Walker got 11 carries. Zach Charbonnet got 6. So they've been basically a 50-50 split. That's a 60, more closer to a 60-40 split or a 65-35 split. I'm fine with that. This has never been for me an anti-Zach Charbonnet mission. It has been the Seahawks are a better team when Ken Walker is getting the ball and that he is a featured part of their offense. He had his largest number of explosive rushes this season in this game. He had 4 runs of over 10 yards. He had the second most runs of over 15 miles an hour, where he was tracked at over 15 miles an hour. I think he had 6 of those in this game. That's a next-gen stat from the NFL. His high point was 8 against the Cardinals the first time in Arizona. So, this was one of the better games for Ken Walker. It was also one of the better games for Zach Charbonnet. And I do wonder a little bit, the Seahawks end up running the ball with their running backs 17 times. They passed the ball 26 times. And in a game where you were ahead 16-3 at halftime, 23-3 after the first drive of the third quarter, and even 30-10 a little bit later, I do wonder about, whether they could have leaned a little bit more into the run game. But I did think that was a positive in this game. I think Ken Walker continues to be one of the most talented players on this offense that I don't think has been maximized yet. One of the things I loved about his performance for the second straight week, it wasn't just about how he was used as a runner. His ability to be an outlet for Sam Darnold out of the backfield has been really great. And in this game, he had 11 carries for 71 yards. He had 3 catches for another 30 yards. It's over 100 yards of offense. It's really like all positive yards essentially for him. And I thought that was good. I thought there were some plays in there. Turned out this was the most yards after contact per carry. Got me on that. So yards after the running back has been contacted per carry for the Seahawks this season. It was like 4.8 yards or something like that, which is that's a big number. Think about that once the running back has been contacted, they're gaining almost another 5 yards per attempt. That's big. And by the advanced metrics, Zach Charbonnet actually outperformed Ken Walker yesterday in terms of efficiency. That doesn't change my opinion on, I still want Ken Walker getting the bulk of the carries, and it seems like the team has come to that conclusion as well. So I'll come back to more stuff about the game, but the next thing that I would say is the Eagles losing was fun to watch. I mean, that was fun to watch. And that was a pretty big game for them to lose because they've now lost their grip on the number 1 seed. Why does that matter? Ultimately, I've gone through the playoff machine for ESPN. I was playing with it a bunch of times, just kind of seeing the Seahawks they're not going to win tiebreakers this year. They're just not, guys. Like, they needed to beat the Rams and sweep them in order to have that tiebreaker. Then they don't have the ability to do that. They do not have a good enough division record to win on that in most cases. They're not going to have a good enough conference record because all 3 of their losses have been conference losses. Losing to the Bucs was a big deal from the perspective of being a conference loss. So the Eagles, I mean, they could win a tiebreaker against the Eagles if the Cowboys beat them again the next time, and maybe the Eagles, drop some other game. But generally speaking, I think the Seahawks are going to have a better record than the Eagles or the Rams or whoever else in order to win tiebreakers. And I think the Rams now have the inside track on the number 1 overall seed. People might say, well, that sucks. Well, sure, they'll get a bye. That's a big deal. But generally speaking, I'd rather the Seahawks go to LA than go to Philly. Not because I think the Eagles are a better team, but I think it's a tougher environment. Honestly, I don't think playing in SoFi is that tough of an environment for anybody. And, whether you have to play the Rams on the road or at home, that doesn't feel like the biggest deal to me. I don't think that's going to be the arbiter of who wins. I think the Rams can play well in Seattle. I think the Seahawks can play well in LA. And so, I don't think it's a huge deal, but it does change things a little bit in that, I think the Seahawks are more likely to, have to travel to LA at some point now than Philly. It depends on how that all plays out, but that's just an early thing there. The other thing is, with the injury to Baker Mayfield in that game, the report is that he may actually even be able to play this week. It's his non-throwing shoulder. It's an AC joint sprain. It looked pretty bad. So I guess I would be surprised if he plays this week. If he misses any longer period of time, the Bucs currently are tied at the top of the division with the Carolina Panthers. Both teams are 6-5. As it stands, the Seahawks would travel to Tampa Bay to play the first round of the playoffs. I would rather travel to Carolina. I'd rather play the Panthers than play the Bucs, even with what's been going on. There's a chance the Bucs fall out of this entirely if they've lost 3 in a row. They're pretty banged up. They will be getting Bucky Irving back. We'll see if they can right the ship. But there's a chance that game where the Seahawks travel to play Carolina, the second to last game of the season, that could be a preview of a playoff game, which I don't think any of us expected to be possible when the schedules came out. So that's one to watch in terms of how things played out this weekend. Other bits. So around the Vikings, who are the Seahawks' next opponent, the Seahawks, obviously the storyline is going to be Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy. The Vikings chose JJ McCarthy over Sam Darnold. It has gone horribly for Minnesota. And there'll be a lot of storylines about Sam Darnold this week. JJ McCarthy is currently in concussion protocol. And so there is a chance, maybe a decent chance, that he will not play in this game. And if he does not, you are going to be talking about undrafted free agent rookie Max Brosmer making his first start. He would make his first start in Seattle. That is not an easy thing to do. Let me look up a little bit on Max here. Make sure I've got all the right information before I make any guesses. But, you know, he was a guy who played in college, you know, at New Hampshire for 5 seasons. Well, he had a medical year that he missed, and then he played in Minnesota for 1. He's 6'1", 217, decent athlete, like a decent athlete from a running around perspective. But yeah, that would be a rough issue for the Vikings. Now, some Viking fans, I would bet, are actually hoping that JJ McCarthy can't play because they're so fed up with him. They'd rather Max Brosmer play. Like, whatever he does can't be worse than JJ McCarthy. I think that's the view of some folks. And JJ McCarthy, I mean, if you guys have listened to me, you know, even last year, I was super low on him. I have a tweet out there. I'm not going to send it out quite yet. But before the draft, I had him as the most overrated player in the draft. I had him as like a 4th round quarterback, and he was going to go in the top 10. Now, I'm not always right. I saw someone else out there saying my quarterback takes are flawless, not mine, but theirs. And I'm like, I would never claim that my quarterback takes are flawless, let alone any other takes. But that one, I mean, I got wrong. I think I was very high on Michael Penix Jr. That hasn't gone so well. But I think my JJ McCarthy take is looking pretty solid right now. He went yesterday against Green Bay, 12 of 19 for 87 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. This guy is having a very, very rough year. This makes, wow, holy shit. He's had at least 1 interception in every game he started. He's had at least 2 interceptions in his last 3 straight games. He has not passed for more than 250 yards a single time. He has only passed for more than 160 yards once. Wow. He is frightfully bad in terms of how that's gone. Shame on the Detroit Lions for losing to him on their home field. I mean, yikes. Now, I say that the Seahawks might face him on their home field, and that's how I'd feel if they let him beat them. I mean, he's been awful. So that's some news. It's something to watch in terms of what's going on for this week. We'll get more information as the week progresses. But those are the bits of news that kind of jumped out to me as I looked at it, as I looked at the game from last night and any other things that happened. Before I get into, I want to show a little bit of some film stuff, and I'll talk a little bit more about the Seahawks Titans game and also about like what's coming up for the Seahawks. Before I do, if you haven't hit like and subscribe, please do join the party, join the community. Would appreciate that. Join as a patreon.com/hawkblogger member. It gets you ad-free audio, gets you access to the Discord server, and also gets you stuff like locker room audio. I posted locker room interviews last night with, Gray Zabel, with Boye Mafe, Derick Hall, Byron Murphy, Olu Timmy. So that's up there for patreon.com/hawkblogger members. You can also give it as a gift. It's a great time to give it as a gift. Patreon.com/hawkblogger/gift will allow you to pick however many months you want to gift, and quick, easy, affordable way to get a gift that people will really love. And then also, if you have not recently gone to SimplySeattle.com, what are you waiting for, folks? SimplySeattle.com. Use code HawkBlogger15. The best place to get all of your Seattle sports gear, Seahawks gear, Mariners gear, Huskies gear, Sonics, whatever it is that you love, Kraken. You can get it at SimplySeattle.com. Use code HawkBlogger15 to get some special discount, 15% off while you're doing holiday shopping as well. And JKBoots.com/HawkBlogger, another great deal. You have to put JKBoots.com/HawkBlogger into your browser to get your own special promo code. That will get you the best discount on the best boots you will ever own or ever give to somebody. JKBoots.com/hawkblogger, Washington-based company, and one that we've done a lot of great charity work with as well. Make sure you take advantage of this deal while it lasts. And Sleeper, the Sleeper app, our always sponsor, and Sleeper has been doing a great deal lately where they give you $20 even without making a deposit. If you use promo code HAWKS, you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Okay, let's get back to it. Wanted to talk a little bit about some of the plays that Sam Darnold made or didn't make against the Titans. We talked about turnovers and avoiding those, and there's some plays that I think we all had some questions about. So let me show you a couple, and I can only show you, unfortunately, stills. All right, so let me make this full screen. Cool. So this is the play. It was second and goal from like the 7-yard line, and Sam Darnold was kind of flushed from the pocket, and he ends up throwing it to A.J. Barner. All right, you can see A.J. Barner's right here. Sam Darnold is rolling out to his left right here. And in real time, when he threw this, I thought A.J. Barner had just kind of settled into a spot and that he tried to zip it in there. You can see that A.J. Barner is actually running open and there's no one really in front of him. You've got this defender over here all the way to the left, but there's a pretty big gap there for Sam to fit it into. So Sam sees this. Keep in mind, for people that are like, hey, he was late to that, running to your left as a right-handed quarterback and then setting up to throw requires you flip your hips, set your feet, and get the ball out. It just takes a second to do. And so I'm going to hide this for a second and get to the next clip, because if I play it, then I'll get a copyright bust. So next I'm going to show you here is, so now he started to flip his hips, right? Because he sees him. And unfortunately, now the rush end has dropped off of Charles Cross, and he's kind of in the way of this. So Sam feels like he feels this space and he's trying to get it in, but he also has to get it away from that guy, which shortens the distance between him and this other coverage player right here that you can see. So he's trying to fit it between the rush end and this guy, basically thread the needle. Now, I was negative on Sam because I thought he should have just run it. The reason I don't take that back completely, but the reason I take it back a little bit on this watch of the All-22 is you saw that first still how open A.J. Barner was. And so in that moment, Sam was not going to get a touchdown running at any point. That wasn't a probability because he has this defender here. I thought he could get to the 2 or 3 yard line, set them up for maybe a third down play that's a little closer. But because he saw AJ coming up and because he had to flip his hips to make that throw, it kind of takes the run out of it. Like, I think it was a logical choice. I'll say it's the logical choice that he's like, no, I'm going to get the touchdown right here to an open player. And so once he's flipped his hips, restarting his run to the left, I don't think he would have gotten anywhere interesting. And the rush end is now unblocked coming his direction. All right. So that's the next thing I wanted to show on this play. Next, one of the things that I did not notice the first time watching is, so Sam's released the ball now. This player here, the rush end, actually tips the pass. So he did not quite keep it far enough away from this guy. He makes a good play coming off his rush. And if he was not there and did not tip that ball, I think it gets right to AJ. And I think that it doesn't get tipped in the air. Okay. So I can't really show you the ball getting tipped, but trust me, it gets tipped by this player. And that affected the play. All right. Now we can criticize Sam for, okay, well, you know, too tight of a window to make that, whatever. But there's a lot of reasons to think that was a reasonable decision when he started to make the decision to throw it. So now, next view here, this is after the ball has been tipped. So what you're going to see here is the ball was going on a trajectory right to where AJ's helmet is. That was the trajectory it was on. It got redirected on the tip all the way to AJ's right hand. It's outstretched, which is now right next to the helmet of the player who closed. So a lot of things happened on this play that make it not quite as bad of a decision as I thought it was in real time. It still was probably a safer bet for Sam to run, but and yes, I know people probably are noticing JSN in the back here. You know, that was not, Sam was on the run, and AJ was a pretty easy throw when he first saw him. That was a pretty easy throw to make. Layering a throw over the defense to JSN, as good as JSN is, still is a harder throw to make. So I just wanted to share this because for me, this was not quite as bad as I thought it was the first time I watched it. The other one that I want to show real quick, I'm going to have to go backwards to get to this one, was the throw to Ken Walker earlier in the game. And on this one, let me get the right view of it. So we're going to go sideline view on this one. And, oh, sorry, that is not what I wanted to do. Let me bring it back. All right. So let me pull this back up. So this was a 3rd and 4 play. 3rd and 4 play for the Seahawks. And you can see the Seahawks have like a condensed formation, and Ken Walker is on the top of your screen. You guys probably see a little bit of my mouse hovering over. I don't have my little marker app set up to work right now, but you can see that. So he's on the inside there. And what you're going to see next is, as I hide and then let it go, Sam likes what he sees from Ken Walker's option right away. There is no pressure here. Look at that pocket. Like, he's got all sorts of time. No one's rushing him. This is one of his first reads. Remember, it's like they need 4 yards for the first down, I believe, on this play, if I'm remembering correctly. And Ken Walker has cushion and is about to break out. And he has outside leverage. The player is giving him outside leverage. So everything looks like it's going to be correct for Sam to get it in there. Next thing that happens on this play is Sam gets rid of the ball. And when he does, let's take a look at this. Ball is now in the air. It's right over Abe Lucas's head, right? So now the corner has closed that gap. If Ken Walker, if the pass had been taking Ken Walker further outside, I think that there's a chance that this gets completed. There's also a chance makes it, that it's intercepted. So it's hard to say. I think the defensive back made a good play here. Whoops. Made a good play. Hopefully that doesn't get me in trouble. And you can see right here, Ken Walker, defends the ball. I think the decision by Sam Darnold, who it's kind of funny right here. If you look at him, he's kind of like, shoulders are up. He's like, am I going to have to tackle this guy? It was a good play by the defensive back. It seemed like a decent read by Sam Darnold, given the play, and the placement of the football was not great. Was kind of how I saw that play on second watch. So those are 2 of the 3. The third one that, I'm not going to show, I don't have to, is, the throw that he was about to get hit and he just throws it up in the air directly to a Titans player who drops it. There's no explanation needed on that. It was a bad decision. don't think you need to rethink anything about it. That's the type of play you simply cannot make. And so this is not to say these two plays I showed were perfect by Sam Darnold and he's got nothing to change about them. But it is helpful to see them a second time from the All-22 and kind of see what the quarterback saw. I don't know if there'll be quite as much, of a negative note for Sam on those two. I do still feel like there's opportunity for him to lean a little bit more into his legs when he gets out on the edge, not because he's going to gain a bunch of yardage, but it's just a lower risk play. It's a lower risk play. And, that's just something to kind of monitor for him going forward. All right, we've got a couple super chats. Let me get to those. Then we got some more stuff about this game to talk about. Giuseppe Orlando, what a name, says, if the Seahawks play in Germany again the next few years, it'd be great if the Real Hawk Talk crew could come here. German beers are on me. Well, happy to take you up on that. I do think the Seahawks are going to get an international game next year. I think there's a chance they're going to play in Australia next year against the Rams. That's one I have in mind. And part of me would love it. I mean, never been to Australia, perfect excuse to go. Part of me would be like, I'm struggling to stay on my feet on 4-hour flights across the country. 24 hours to Australia would be a rough one, but that would be fun. So we will definitely consider a road international game as a place to do a Real Hawk Talk live. And then Jay Malfair 5790 says the Vikings scuttled themselves with JJ. Yeah, I think the handling of the quarterback position in the Vikings organization is essentially a fireable offense in my book. I don't think it's going to result in that, but for you to have Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold in the building and then basically, traded up, I think, to get JJ McCarthy, that's the guy you chose. There are a lot of other guys in that draft class that personally I thought were better quarterbacks. I think you pretty much picked one of the only bad ones in that class. And so I'm looking right now just to refresh my memory. I know at least, I think, Michael Penix and so JJ McCarthy went 10th overall. So they did not have a chance at Michael Penix. They could have gone after Bo Nix. I don't know that Bo Nix is any great shakes. I don't know that the Broncos fans are feeling super comfortable with Bo Nix, even though he's won a lot more. After that, I guess not. There's not really another quarterback, I would say. So I don't know. It's a rough situation for the Vikings, and let's hope that it stays rough for them through this week so the Seahawks can get their 9th win. And then the Seahawks will be going on the road to Atlanta, another team that has a quarterback from that draft class who is now injured. Michael Penix out for the year. They'll be playing Kirk Cousins. And if you can get your 10th win there, Seahawks could be looking at 10 wins. They're equal their amount from last year with what would be 4 games left to play. So they're in a stretch right now where the Seahawks need to get healthy, play, work on aspects of their game, get better, and be ready to then get the Colts at home, and then 4 days later get the Rams at home on Thursday Night Football. That's going to be a key stretch. And honestly, the last 4 games of the season now look a lot more challenging and interesting than they did. Colts at home was not a game you thought was going to be a big one. It certainly is. The Rams you knew was going to be a big one at home. And then you go on the road to Carolina and on the road to the 49ers to end the year. Those are 4 tough games to end the season. So we'll keep an eye on how the team progresses there. Sharkums with a super chat says, JSN, I just wanted to pin JSN. Yeah. Amazing game from JSN, amazing season from him. And I think one of the things that's cool about how Mike McDonald talked about him in the post-game press conference and other times is just how good of a teammate he is. That is such a it's such a great way to highlight that he's not a diva. He's not one of the Antonio Brown, well, I won't name other names, but like some of the diva wide receivers out there that make everything about them, that complain when they don't get the ball, that are not interested in blocking, that don't run routes if like to their full effort if they don't think that they're the primary target. JSN does everything right. He run blocks well with like a lot of physicality. He runs every route well. He's the best deep ball receiver in the NFL right now. He's got great hands. And he is not making himself bigger than the team. So it's fun to watch him ascend. And let's just appreciate what we're getting to watch there, because we're watching history unfold with him. And I don't think it's out of the question that he can break Calvin Johnson's receiving record in 16 games in the time frame that Calvin Johnson set it. And I'd love that for JSN, because I don't want any asterisk on it. Like, he is good enough that he doesn't need an asterisk. I think he can go out there and do it in 16 games the same way that Calvin Johnson did it. And he's a pleasure to cover, a pleasure to talk to. And yeah, couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happening to a nicer guy. Other things relative to this game. So I thought Devon Witherspoon had his best game of the season. And it did, like, it's a typical Devon Witherspoon kind of situation where it's not going to show up on the box score that much. He had a great edge set on a run play that led to Drake Thomas torpedoing into the backfield for a tackle for loss, as he does all the time. So Drake Thomas gets the stat, but Devon Witherspoon made that play, made it possible. There was another play where Derick Hall, I think, got his first sack, and Devon Witherspoon was the guy that was blitzing and funneled the quarterback to Derick Hall to get that sack. And it's kind of fitting, because Derick Hall has funneled a lot of sacks to other people with his pass rush so far this year. But Witherspoon was great there. There were some great tackles on the perimeter that won't show up as like meaningful plays, but if he doesn't make those tackles, they could have gone for much bigger yardage. He had a great pass breakup in the end zone. I thought his energy level was great. I thought his just speed seemed back to Devon Witherspoon level play speed. And it made me wonder if we're at the point where maybe his bruised MCL that he was playing with, knee protection for a while, maybe he's finally back to full go, or as close to full go as he's going to get this year, because he looked a little different to me in this game. And he right now is the second highest graded cornerback by PFF in the NFL, which I think is pretty cool. And I don't think is crazy from them. I think that he is just an all-around great player. And one of the cool things that I found when doing some research this morning on the flight back was that the Seahawks have the number one cornerback in the NFL in terms of pressures. It's Emmanwori. And they also have the number 4 cornerback in the NFL in terms of total pressures with 6. That is Devon Witherspoon. I think that says something about both of those guys. It also says something about why it was such a big deal when they were never playing together, because Mike Macdonald had a lot of plans for sending one or the other from one side or the other and not allowing teams to key on one of them. And last year, Devon Witherspoon was absolutely the guy that people keyed on, and it made him less effective. Now, Emmanwori is the most effective pass rushing defensive back in the NFL. And you've got a guy that has previously been the most effective pass rushing defensive back in the NFL. And you have him playing for Mike Macdonald, who is the mad scientist who knows exactly how he wants to unleash those guys. So that's another storyline that I don't think has gotten enough attention and deserves more, is how those guys are adding to the pass rush. And by the way, yesterday, my goodness, it was 42 pressures by the Seahawks in this game. I said 40 because that's what PFF initially reported. Their final tally after the film review was done was 42 pressures. Not only that, they had 29 stops. Now, what are stops? Stops are when you have a tackle that defeats the play. Basically, any tackle that results in, quote, failure of the play for the offense. And that usually is a tackle for loss or a tackle at the line of scrimmage or, close to it. And so the Seahawks had 29 stops in this game. It's not an easy way for me to go find out like if that's the season high, but I would bet it might be for them. And so it was, even though it didn't feel as dominant as everybody wanted it to be, honestly, they completely dominated all structured on schedule play calls. It was all these kind of wild, not reliable, not repeatable kinds of escaping from the pocket plays that Cam Ward made. And he did make them. So I'm not taking credit away from Cam Ward, but I am giving credit back to the Seahawks defense that a lot of the numbers are pretty damn impressive. And we talked about Derick Hall. It's another guy that I just feel like is not getting the shine that he deserves. He led the team in pressures yesterday with 8. The Seahawks had 3 players with 7 pressures or more. Byron Murphy had 7, Leonard Williams had 7, and Derick Hall had 8. DeMarcus Lawrence had 6. So a lot of pressure being created by those guys. Drake Thomas had 4. He continues to be a great addition. But getting back to the Derick Hall bit, I tweeted about this morning. I think sacks are a really challenging indicator of like pass rush performance because there's a lot of reasons why you don't always get a sack, even if you're doing the right things as an edge rusher. Sorry, folks. I'm going to mute for a second, see if I can clear my throat. All right. Hopefully that's better. So this is regarding Derick Hall. He just got his first sack of the season, which sounds like very disappointing. And I'm sure he would like to have more. He's had so many that he's been right there for, but it hasn't quite been the one that brings him down or given the credit for doing so. But he ranks sixth among all edge rushers in the NFL in pass rush win rate when in a true pass set. Now, what is true pass set for people that don't keep track of that? That's getting rid of passes that are screens, like throwaways, when they clock the ball, throw the ball in the dirt, all that kind of stuff, or throws that are under 2.5 seconds where it's such a quick throw, there's not a real chance to rush the passer. Derick Hall ranks 6th among all edge rushers in that number with a 27.6 pass rush win rate. When you get to looking at overall among edge rushers, he's 7th in the NFL in win rate. The guys that are above Derick Hall, first I'll start with the TPS, the true pass set win rate. The guys that are ahead of him, Myles Garrett, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., Micah Parsons, Josh Hines Allen of the Jaguars. That's crazy. If you go to just overall win rate, the guys that are ahead of him, Myles Garrett, Will Anderson Jr., Micah Parsons, Aiden Hutchinson, Danielle Hunter, and Trey Hendrickson. So he's ahead of guys like Jalen Phillips, who the Eagles added. He's ahead of Nick Bonito. He's ahead of Jared Verse and Byron Young and Josh Sweat and on down the list. Chase Young, Jonathan Greenard, Joey Bosa. So that doesn't mean that he's better than those players, but it's an indication that he's having a lot more success as a pass rusher than shows up in his sack stats. And if you are a true sicko and you've been with me during this whole offseason, you'll remember that I used those win rate numbers for Byron Murphy to tell you why he played a much better rookie year than people remember or people gave him credit for because he didn't get the sack numbers. I'm telling you again that these win rate numbers are meaningful for Derick Hall, and I think he's having a much better season than people realize. So that's another one that kind of a storyline that came out of this game that got my attention. What else? Let me look through a couple other things that stood out to me. Okay. So with all the pressures from Byron Murphy yesterday and another sack, he now, along with Leonard Williams, the Seahawks have 2 of the top 5 defensive tackles in pressures on the season. Zach Allen is number 1 in the NFL with 45. Leonard Williams is number 2 with 43. Byron Murphy is number 5. He is right after Chris Jones. Chris Jones has 39. Byron Murphy has 38. I think that's fantastic news. And, continues to be, Byron Murphy, a season where he's now on track for 9.3 sacks. So let's call it somewhere between 9 and 10 sacks this year. If he gets double-digit sacks in his second season, if he gets 9 sacks, to be honest, in his second season at the defensive tackle spot, that would be huge. That'd be huge. Ken Walker, who I talked about before, had a great 85.5 grade from PFF yesterday. He is now the second highest graded running back in the NFL behind only Jahmyr Gibbs. And he's the second highest graded running back from a rushing grade perspective behind only Jonathan Taylor. So again, if you're looking at like the actual way he is playing, I think it's a lot better than the numbers. You might also be surprised to know Ken Walker's on pace for a 1,000-yard season. He's only 4 yards behind his projected pace for what was his career high as a rookie. So I think that if he's going to get more carries, he's doing that with split carries. And that's only his rushing yards, not his receiving yards. I think now if he's getting 60-65% of the snaps, he might end up with 1,100 yards rushing, maybe 1,200 yards. Like, his pace should pick up. And I think that, that would be really, really good. Other things, the Seahawks, let's talk about Drake Thomas for a second. Had another tackle for loss on the play that I mentioned with Spoon helping out. He has at least 1 tackle for loss in every game that he has started except for 1. And he is second in the NFL among inside linebackers in tackles for loss. And he is 5th in passes defensed among inside linebackers. He's only been getting starter snaps since week 6. So, I mean, he's been having a really impressive performance. I thought that Patty O'Connell had a much better game than I initially realized. I mean, I thought he played a good game, but when I went back and watched again, he was everywhere. I thought he had a really fantastic game. So a lot of good stuff from the Seahawks, even though the final tally was not inspiring. And I think there's points in that game where it just felt like a job. It felt like they had to go there and do their job. And I think they did. And kudos to guys like Devon Witherspoon for bringing the energy in a game where other, players could have just looked at this and been like, man, let's just get out of here, get our win and go home. I think having some joy playing the game is a big part of how this team is who they are. All right, let me check to see if there's any other super chats that I've missed. I have not. I'm going to give my voice a break. I'll be going to cover the Mike McDonald press conference later today. I wouldn't be surprised if I take a little bit of a nap, which would be wonderful if I can make that happen, and get some food also as well. We will have a little bit of a different schedule this week, both with the Seahawks as well as myself. We'll not be doing a Thursday show of Hawk Blogger Mornings. We'll probably take that day off entirely. I do all the cooking in my house for Thanksgiving, so I'll be busy doing that. We'll have a full house of guests, and so we'll be focusing on those folks. But we will have our show tomorrow with Matt Hasselbeck. I think we will. I haven't finalized who will be my guest on Wednesday, but we'll preview the Vikings game, do tail the tape, first look, all that stuff. We will do Real Hawk Talk with Evan and Jeff at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday, so the night before. And then we'll be back Friday with Mike Sando as we prepare for the weekend, and Jeff Simmons on Saturday. So all that good stuff coming up. I see the super chat here. Sam Dog the Famous, see the news on JJ McCarthy. Yes, Sam, we did talk about that at the earlier part of the show. Thanks for the super chat to make sure we knew. I appreciate you for doing that. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. I know the schedule is a little unpredictable on these travel days for me. I appreciate all your flexibility and your passion for what we've got going on with the Seahawks this year. So we'll see you out soon, and have a great rest of your Monday. Until I talk to you next, take care. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings.